Good afternoon and welcome to the session on Microsoft's AI strategy. So first of all, it was a great honor to be here with Andrew. I'm a fan of his. I've seen a lot of his videos on the internet, and he's truly a pioneer in the AI industry, so we're lucky to have him today. For my presentation today, I want to make it very practical and give you the tools to help grow your business and give you some ideas for the themes happening in AI and how Microsoft is part of the industry and that transformation. I'd like to do an exercise. So imagine that you're in the future. You can be in the year 2028. It could be at work, it could be with friends. And think back on the old days in 2018. And think of how much the world has changed during that time. I think there'll be fewer of us driving cars. The medical industry will have changed dramatically, the finance industry, again, by AI. And so when you're in 2028, ask yourself a question. What did you do to take advantage of the AI possibilities in 2018? And so a key message is it's happening now. And don't lose the chance. The technologies are ready. They are being scaled and used very, very rapidly. In fact, Satya, our boss, the CEO of Microsoft, said AI is not just a wave of technology. It could be the wave, one of the most transformative and impactful happening throughout history. Our government leaders, and again, something that Andrew called out, certainly understand this. I'll give you two examples. So one was from the Washington Post, and it talked about that we won't just have a single center of AI technologies, perhaps in the US, but a bipolar world where the US and China will have some very strong AI companies and government policies. And they talked about geopolitical impact, that companies that through AI have closer connection to China and others will have it from the US. So really helping to drive whole economies and even politics at a global scale. The other was interesting, and again, Andrew talked about it here also, an article from Forbes very recently, and the title I'm sure will make people smile, is Korea going to be one of the great AI countries in the world? And it talks about the work being done here, in Japan and in China. But a lot of government investment and certainly changing not just your company organization, but a whole country. And so the transformation of our technology is very, very interesting and a hot topic. And you start combining it with IoT. And so the amount of data being happening in our house, in our cars, in sports events, and you really get transformation across precision agriculture, start to get it in precision medicine and finance. And what this means is tremendous opportunity for us all. So I'm going to challenge everyone a little bit. And I think we have a point of view now that every company is in fact a software company. It doesn't matter if you're a manufacturer or finance or healthcare. The way you add value and the way you should look at yourself is that you are a software company. And maybe I'm too ambitious to say every company is an AI company, but I think you need to have a point of view. It's too important a technology to ignore. So you need to understand artificial intelligence. What does it mean for your strategy, your industry? But I think this is coming faster than we expect. In fact, I think the Gartner analysts talk about 85% of enterprises will start using AI in the next 2 years. So it's happening very, very rapidly now. So we're seeing a paradigm shift towards the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And from Microsoft, we have two massive clouds with Office 365 and Azure, and really three technologies that permeate ubiquitous computing, artificial intelligence, and also multi-sense, multi-touch devices. And I want to run a video to give you a sense of some of the capabilities now across the cloud and the intelligent edge. So let's run the video and have a look at that.
Our vision was to bring artificial intelligence to the places where people never even imagined that they would be able to have it before. We've got this great ruggedized 1-ton Suburban. We can take this car in a disconnected environment. There's a lot of different data collection devices that are within the vehicle. An in-car camera, 360 by 240 degree spherical camera. We're able to deploy drones from the vehicle But when you really talk about power, the back is a little black case with the rugged Azure stack and AI that we're able to bring to the edge. The data is amazing, but it's the AI and the cognitive services that turn it into something that we can really use in the real world. We create our own data processing in any environment that this car can get us into. In disaster relief, we have the ability to take in and start analyzing the infrastructure, bridges, roads. We can find the most effective routes to be able to get aid into people. We can help figure out routes to get the people out of harm's way. From an enterprise standpoint, increasing inefficiencies will save companies millions and millions of dollars. Imagine power lines. We can send a single guy in a drone and a vehicle like this. He's taking imagery of the power lines. We can run the analytics based upon the models that are already built, and now we see that this part can fail or everything's working fine. Being able to take the power of Azure Stack and AI to the edge, to those people that are disconnected all over the world, and bring them the ability to do things that we've never even been able to dream of before, and now we can do that.
So wasn't that exciting? I tried to negotiate with my wife to make our own car in a mobile data center with the drones, but she wouldn't let me do it. But it really shows you that these scenarios are real. They're being used now. Recently, in fact, a lot of the power companies in California, after storms and so forth, there's a lot of damage. And so having the combination of cloud, of drones, and the intelligent edge can allow people to do safety and checks, if you like, in a much safer way. So it's being very, very helpful in extreme scenarios. So let's talk about the ubiquitous computing. So in the new model, applications will have a couple of different features. So they'll be event-driven, serverless, and really distributed. And in fact, that's kind of what we're building with Azure. And think about the Azure cloud as sort of being the world's computer in a way. So we have 50 data centers, 70 different certifications, and more data centers and certifications than any other cloud on the planet. And we're building it to meet the customer's requirements, both in terms of scalability and availability, but what are the healthcare requirements? What are the finance requirements in your country? So we can support those also. But then it gets really exciting as you start combining it with the edge. And so you kind of get offline scenarios like the car with the mobile data center, and things like the IoT edge to manage your container devices, and Azure Sphere for the interconnected devices as well. So the IoT edge, in fact, containers, you can run Azure code, third-party services, or your own code. And it really is exciting working on Windows and Linux. And you might have noticed that Microsoft has changed fundamentally. It's not just being a Windows company, but we love open source. We love the Windows and Linux environments. In the Windows case, you have a lot of machine learning and hardware acceleration, but also in the IoT ecosystem now, we have open sourced the Linux IoT Edge to extend that via the developers, and a very rich ecosystem around the edge here. And I suspect a number of folk in the room, if not participating, should look at doing that in the future. We have about 230 partners and 1,000 certified solutions and applications within the ecosystem. This is growing incredibly quickly. Again, all part of the same Azure computing fabric. So I'll give you some examples of the kind of partnerships we're bringing to the ecosystem. So one of them is a partnership with Qualcomm that will announce the software development kit and the camera for home security kind of scenarios. Another one, for those of you who like drones, which I suspect is many, you can start getting really good hooks, not just into the data from the drones, but the flight paths. And you look at maintenance scenarios for power lines, agriculture, a lot of industrial safety solutions as well. So these kind of tools will add into the ecosystem and give you, great new possibilities. And then we have Azure Sphere to really manage in a secure way interconnected devices. Does anyone know how many microcontrollers they expect in the world this year? Any guesses? It's about 9 billion. Imagine that, 9 billion computing nodes as an available part of your solutions out there. So the amount of data and computing power is growing exponentially. It needs to be managed in a very secure way. And so let's talk a bit about artificial intelligence. And here's where a lot of the breakthroughs are happening at a rapid pace. We've been heavily involved in a number of these breakthroughs. And I did neural network studies at university. Back in the day, it was only academic. It actually works now. So the combination of cloud, the algorithms of the neural network, and the amount of data available has made it very practical. And so the key takeaway here is a lot of these capabilities, whether they be visual recognition, audio recognition, translation, are better than we have as human beings. So the computing technologies are as good as we are today, and they will keep improving. So in 2016, we had, through a lot of depth in the neural networks, you can now recognize objects as well as human beings. In 2017, you had speech recognition that was as good as human beings. We started to get reading and comprehension. So sentiment analysis. Is someone happy in the text? Are they sad? This kind of understanding is now much stronger through computers. And then human translation. Did I lose the mic? No, it's okay. Now, in a way, the breakthroughs don't matter unless we can democratize these tools. So we need to make them available to customers, developers, and partners. So the face recognition, the character recognition, the speech translation services all have to be made available to companies and partners and make them easy to use. And we're working very, very hard, on that. And I think there's about 35 different standard services available. But then when you take those and customize them for your application, that's when the real magic happens. So the American Basketball NBA Association is using sentiment analysis through their video systems. BMW is using a lot of the cognitive services technologies for their assistant. And Twitter is translating all of the tweets that's happening. So you can apply these in some really interesting scenarios. I want to run another video that shows you what you can do by mining a lot of the videos now and applying AI technologies, whether it's healthcare or business sites, etc. So let's have a look at the folk from Prism.
The promise of AI has always been to make lives better and do things that we're doing now on our own in a much more efficient and much more powerful way. But to do that, AI needs to learn. And to learn, it needs information. And one of the best sources of information we have on the world and how it works is hidden in the video cameras all around us. A phenomenal amount of video is generated every year. And it's not just the hundreds of millions of cameras all around us, it's the billions of cell phones that we all keep in our pockets. Prism is a cloud software company that connects to cameras that already exist in the marketplace and analyzes that video in a way no human can. It slices and dices the video and puts that into our data structure so it's searchable and available to customers. Microsoft is a big part of the smarts that help the indexing and understanding of video happen. To use Prism, all you have to do is pull out your phone and type in what it is you're looking for and where, and Prism will find it. The value comes from unlocking the hidden information in video, and that can be just as valuable for a factory or construction site or hospital as it is for a retail store. Prism also takes that video feed and turns it into a stream of information that can be used to let that business run better. Microsoft's computer vision API can understand different kinds of objects, texts, other types of information. Merchandisers might use us to look into their stores around the world, or people in retail operations might use us to build a dashboard of important metrics. Places like hospitals or healthcare facilities can use Prism to understand where their doctors are so they can more quickly connect those doctors with patients. In verticals like industrial or construction, Prism can be used to help track really important critical machinery. If you're on a construction site and you wanted to be notified when the cement mixer arrived, you can use AI to do that. Prism brings a really unique set of content into the world of AI and machine learning, and Microsoft brings some of the best technology and people in the world to help understand that content. It's an exciting time, and the coolest thing about it is we're just getting started.
So the world is certainly changing from static text and pictures to really mining a lot of the video footage. It gives tremendous new possibilities. The other thing that's interesting too is you're starting to get a convergence of artificial intelligence with a lot of hardware scenarios. So one partnership we have with the friends from Xiaomi is a translation device for Chinese travelers. And so it has machine learning and speech recognition built in, and really to lower the barrier as Chinese travelers in many different countries. And in general, the language translation capabilities of AI are growing dramatically. So we're seeing a lot of uptake from customers on that. That's fine. So let's talk about what's happening in the Windows and the Office world. So we have a huge install base of Windows and Office customers, and now we're extending that where Office 365 works not just on the Windows platform, but the Apple iOS and the Android scenarios as well. And there's in fact a lot of AI built into the collaboration text as well. So when you sign on to Windows 10, got the facial recognition, and it logs you on in a secure way. We're starting to bake in augmented reality with HoloLens and things like spam filtering and so forth. But one of the things that's quite exciting, if I'm working on a piece of AI research, it will realize that I'm interested in the topic. It will find other pieces of related information, other experts who work on this as well. So bringing in artificial intelligence and how we work and how we collaborate, even in an unstructured way. We have something called Microsoft Graph, which are the hooks within Office 365 to build and develop AI solutions on top of the collaboration platform. And so Adobe, Fujitsu are building AI solutions on top of the platform as well. Now, because I'm Swedish, I wanted to have a case study from my home country. So I've decided to talk about the bridge maintenance between Sweden and Denmark. And it's a great piece of engineering. So connecting the countries together. Now, the challenge they had here was that the bridge maintenance was actually quite difficult. And they had a drone that would take video footage of the bridge end to end. And there's a couple of key things that to watch for. So whether it's algae, rust, or cracks, and then you have teams of engineers who would look at the video footage. It's kind of boring, very intense, you can't make a mistake. But what they did, and they did it in a relatively short space of time. It took maybe 2 or 3 months to put a system together. But you can start to train the system to capture, here's a crack, here's algae, here's a piece of rust. And to save a lot of the time, literally man-months worth of work, that you can highlight, here's a potential issue, go to the footage, and then go to the physical environment to double check and see if it does need maintenance. And this kind of example can be used in many scenarios. It's a similar principle for finding cancerous cells in breast cancer prevention, in financial transactions to find extreme scenarios. So detection, understanding, taking away a lot of the boring kind of work. I think that's one of the strengths of AI. And I can see that given the combination of AI technology and the IoT, it's really your imagination that can decide really how this can be applied. And in fact, we're very excited to be here, and thank you to our hosts from SK Telecom. I think there's tremendous opportunity that we can work with Microsoft, our technologies, our friends at SK Telecom, and many of you in the room to start building applications, whether it be in manufacturing, agriculture, public sector. So I see the next wave of companies, the next wave of capabilities are really here now. And so let's not waste that opportunity. And so back to my original question. When you are in the year 2028 and you think back upon the AI revolution that happened in 2018, did you make the most of that opportunity then? So don't waste it. Together, let's go after these opportunities. And thank you very much for your time. Kamsa Hamida. Thank you.